just like to take this opportunity to say hello and also welcome to Chee Kong Yeung, actually, from a friend of mine who I've made friends over the last few years. So this sort of like a interview video clip or whatever you want to call it, it's just about his style as well. So Chee Kong does a style called Pek Mei Kung Fu, which is a relatively unknown style, I would say, even by the UK standards. You know, probably not as popular as what Wing Chun is, you know, which is the style that I do. So I brought Chee Kong here just to talk about Pek Mei, and it's sort of like I won't say popularity, but want to do with you know, how he's been doing it for a good 20 odd years, and so I want to just welcome you, Chee Kong. So if you can just give me maybe a 2 or 3 minute overview of what Pek Mei Kung Fu is. You know, again, I know it's still a relative unknown art, so if you were to explain the art to somebody, how would you explain it?
All right. Oh, thank you, Martin, for listening to me. So Pek Mei Kung Fu, if I describe its essence, it's an internal martial art. It's a lot to do with critical striking.
Yes.
It develops instead of using muscles, it develops a different kind of energy or expression through using the strength of the tendons. It has a number of different forms. Each form has a different aspect, one which is focused on attacking, one which is forms which are building foundation, some that are built on kind of like close range. But generally our style is a close range striking. We do have low kicks as well. They only go up to about waist height, but they're mostly around about knee height.
Yes.
So it's very typical of southern kung fu styles. Yeah, so we do have locking as well. Yeah, so it's quite a package.
So what age did you actually start? I know you started training with, but what age did you start training Pek Mei?
Yeah, so I started quite late. I started after university. You know, so normally when you watch, you know, my Sifu, he started when he was 8 years old.
Okay.
But for me, I only started when I was at university. So I was 20 at the time. Okay, yeah, so relative latecomer.
Okay, so that's interesting. That so obviously you started with. I mean, what made you go to? Is your obviously your Sifu, your Grandmaster Sifu is Tang Cho Tak. So what? How did you get to know him? Or was it through your father or?
Yeah. So at the time, I had a passion that I wanted to learn kung fu. We grew, you know, as a Chinese person, I always grew up with surrounded by kung fu movies and so on, and so it was always really exciting. Yeah. And so it was quite lucky because my dad knew the kung fu community at the time. Okay. And so he was also part of the kung fu community, you know, my dad said, you know, Master Tang, you know, I entrust my 3 sons to you to learn.
So your 3, 2 of the brothers.
Yeah, so both, so all, you know, me and my siblings, we all do Pek Mei.
Okay. Is there any rivalry sometimes, or between you 3?
No, because we're all there, we're learning together. In fact, they started before me. Okay. So in terms of structure-wise, they're my seniors. So it's a bit funny having 2 younger brothers as seniors.
Okay. So you know, just going back to Pek Mei itself, was am I right in saying, or I could be incorrect in saying that was the first person to teach Pek Mei openly in the UK, or was he one of the masters at the time?
Yeah. So in Pek Mei, there were a number of Sifus in Hong Kong, and then some of them, you know, came to the UK. But my Sifu was the first one to open a school in London, Chinatown. Okay. At the time. But there were other masters in Pek Mei around in different parts of the UK at the time. Okay. And also different parts of London. And
does your Sifu also mention about the other styles that were about at that time in London? You know, obviously, we probably never even discussed this, but you know, Jan Tak probably knew Li Xing, you know, who taught Wing Chun as well in London Chinatown, but then probably never actually saw each other on the street, just said hello and had that mutual respect. But did your Sifu ever mention anything like that to you in the past?
Yeah, so around the time when the Chinese community started building in London, there were people practicing Kung Fu. At one point in the history of my Sifu, they shared the basement in a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown with Dragon Sign.
Oh, right.
They shared the basement, and at the time there were other masters around, like with Wing Chun, and also with Mantis style as well.
Okay.
And so there were, you know, and they all got on and all friends with one another.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, you know, including one of the Wing Chun masters, Victor Can.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're all friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're very, very
long established.
Yeah, long established work community. And do you know which basement it was? Was it in the Canton? I think it's called the Canton Restaurant, Guangdong Lao, isn't it?
That's one of the oldest restaurants in Chinatown. But then this one was, I think it was Lei Hao Fo.
Lei Hao. Okay.
But then during the time in Chinatown, it did move around to a number of premises.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see. Interesting. Yeah. Just so obviously, just reading my notes here about the Pak Mei syllabus. I can see that you've got a number of forms in there. I know I wrote down 12, but it's probably less than that in the particular lineage that you're from. I've obviously heard things like Jikbo, Gabo Toi, and Sabat Mokyu. You know, I've heard of those types of styles. But you know, would you say that going through the is there a sequence that you go through when you're actually doing these forms? I know, you know, again, I've written down quite a lot there about the different styles, but is it a particular sequence that you have to go through to do it? If I just take Wing Chun, for example, you know, we have obviously our first one, which is Xiu Lin Tao, the second form is Tam Kyo, and then we've also got the third form, which is Beauty, you know, and you would learn it in that sequence. I don't know if this would you the same for Pek Mei as well?
Yeah, so depending on their lineage, they actually do some of the forms in different orders.
Okay.
But then the one that comes first is always Jekbo, and
okay.
that is the foundation form.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the mistakes that people make is that they, you know, especially practitioners, they treat Jekbo as if it's like the basic form. No, it's the foundation form. Without the foundation, and the essence of the whole style doesn't carry through. But then for the way the sequence that I learnt it went from Jekbo to Lim Kyo, and then Sabji Gabuto, and then progressed from there. But with different schools, they have a different order. But with there are three core Pek Mei, pure Pek Mei forms, which is Jekbo, Gabuto, and Sabat Mo.
Okay.
Many of the other forms are actually because our ancestor he learned a number of styles from different masters at the time in Canton, and so he kept one out of respect for the masters that he learned from. He kept one form from the styles that he learned, which is some of the forms that you've named there, and each of those have different characteristics. One of them is used for locking and throwing. Another one is used for aggressive chasing, and so on. So they all have different characteristics, and it's not to say that. So instead of one being more advanced than the other, no, they're actually more kind of like all parallel. That they all have distinctive strategies and so on, which make them unique.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's not so much of a layering. Yeah. But they all have their own individual characteristics.
Okay, I understand. I understood that. Yeah, just moving on from you reading my notes as well. We've got this principle of, well, if I just use the English words for float, sink, swallow, and spit. You know, obviously, Wing Chun practitioner. I think I mentioned this to you before that we don't have this in you know the Wing Chun style that we have. I mean, if we look at the combination of the you know of them all, if we could look at swallow, you know, which is in Chinese it's translated into tan, isn't it? Swallowing. So I don't know if you can explain, you know, the tan Tao, Tam, and Fo.
Yeah. So Fo Tam Tan To is one of the characteristics of our style. It's not. It also exists in other styles as well, but it may be under slightly different names or expressions. Like in Tai Chi, they may just call it an empty chest or something. But we really emphasize the structure. So we have a normal kind of like, we have a swallowing structure, which is almost like a collapsing. So if you imagine the body in a state of contraction and expansion, and it's a transition between those states that we can use to express a hand movement through. So it starts from, so imagine that the Fo Tam Tan To is the actual core part of the physical part of the body, and has a so we have so that the more tongue, which is the collapsing of the body, and sinking, its effect on an opponent is that it draws them in.
Yeah.
And then you have the explosive part, which is the toe and the foul as well, which is then more of a propulsion expression. And then so if applied to, and so almost like your hands are carried through that movement from the center of your body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it has a number of uses. At the very least, it helps the practitioner to breathe. Yeah. So you often find out with people who start learning any form of martial arts is that sometimes they do the move and they forget to breathe properly. So at the very least, it helps with the breathing. And at the same time, it helps with the structure of the body in a kind of like more compact state. You are going to be able to withstand maybe a blow or something much more as if, compared to if your body was open. So it has a structural property, but then at the same time, it's using it for an expression of an actual strike as well.
And just going back to that, you say structural, measure about structural property. I mean, do you practice that in the forms, or do you? If you go back to your martial arts skills where they're whacking a thing to it, do you condition it that way, or do you just have to practice it through the forms, or you do dual exercises and things like that?
Yeah. So in our school, what we do, we spend when we're warming up, we spend a lot of time breathing, doing the exercise and advancing a stance, but then synchronizing it with the breathing and the whole structure of expanding your body and contracting your body. But then the moves that the Fo Tam Tan To is expressed in every single move in the forms and also in the applications as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're constantly practiced.
Yeah.
But then sometimes being able to just isolate, just practicing breathing, pays dividends in the expression through a form.
This is what I found very interesting. In our like Pak Mei, I know Hong Kong probably does it as well, and also Tong Long Kun, the Malaysian. But we don't have that in Wing Chun at all, because probably been stripped away, probably been left out, way back. So I find these things that you bring into what I call the essence of Kung Fu, because I know that obviously Pek Mei Kung Fu has been around a long time, and you probably as it's come through the generations, it's probably been preserved as well. Whereas I feel as though with regards to Wing Chun, a lot of this probably was in there but was stripped away. Yeah. So I think sometimes when people do look at a martial art, an art side, I think practicality wise, people also want a quick fix, but also, right, when you're looking for the outside, I mean, what you've just been talking about, right, makes sense to me. That you have to practice it, they have to be there. But again, it's whether you have the patience to do that as well. I can imagine, if you wanted to learn to fight very quickly or defend yourself very quickly, that you probably think, I'll leave that till later. Yeah, kind of thing.
No, it's easy to get caught up in it. And when I first learned as well, I was like, wow, I just want to learn the moves and then learn the striking, because it's really exciting and it feels good. Yeah. And then during those times, it's very easy to just get pulled away just learning moves and not concentrate on the actual foundation, which is underlying it. And so there is, it's a journey. So yes, there is a part where you start off with the foundation and so on, and then you do the moves, and then you go back to the foundation, and then it's suddenly what you've learned actually has a different expression. And so it's the review of that, and then as as one matures as a practitioner,
Mm.
it further develops and matures along the way, and then it's only kind of like once you kind of experience when it's been done and done well, that you can really understand the importance of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but then that normally is like only after you've practiced for a long time, when you start to be a bit more introspective and asking, right, okay, how do I bring this to the next level? How do I really enhance this? And it then takes on a different aspect.
Okay, that's good. Just move on. Obviously, you've been teaching for well, about 20 years, I believe, and you've seen martial arts move forward. And have you also studied other arts as well? Obviously, what I'm leading to, right? I feel as though I mean I got this from the other Sifus that I've been talking to along the way, is that your role as a Sifu in the modern day is more or less a role of a coach, in Chinese Shaolin, isn't it? And I feel as though that I give you a fee, right, and you teach me. Whereas I feel as though in the olden times, right, you can call it traditional. You would take a student on, and he would come and develop it, and that person would look at you as a father figure as well, along the way, guiding him the wrongs and rights of the world. Do you feel as though that in the modern day way that it feels as though that you're more of a coach than a Sifu? I mean, that's what I feel in the outside. In what I'm teaching, maybe it's different for you.
It very much depends on the
individual.
No, but how much they've actually come to think about what their role is. So initially when I first started off, it was about I want people to learn this style. I wanted them to be able to do the moves and so on. So that's when in the early part of when I started teaching, and then as I start to develop as a person, then I start to become more introspective as what is my responsibility as So initially it's that yes, I'm an instructor, I'm a teacher, and then later on as you go and you think actually, I'm the person who's going to be transmitting this. So then you have the responsibility then dawn on me that no, this has got to be done in a way that it is transmitted from me to someone else in a form which is authentic to the way it was passed down to me. So it makes it more about the art rather than me. And so traditionally, because the cultural part of martial arts, especially from Asia, is that there's a reverence to the art that you're learning, and there's a reverence to the person who's transmitting that art. So there is a cultural difference between East and West. So in the West, it's more like, right, I'm going to learn a skill from someone. But the closest model that there exists in the West is maybe more of a master an apprentice.
Okay, yeah.
So we go back, a few hundred years. How did they transmit skills, right? Like things like metal work or woodwork. There'll be a master and an apprentice. And so in Asia, we were used to having the structure of having a master and a disciple. So it's not just martial arts. It could be with cooking. It could even be calligraphy or something like that. So there's a reference to the art and the person who's transmitting the art, which is different. So what my role is that as I've started to do, more, become more aware. So doing some own inner work and then growing as a person, then I take check of where I am now with something. I think actually is that the message? What is the message I want to put out? Is this the way that that's actually beneficial to the practitioner? Is it kind of like authentic to the art and so on? So it requires a degree of reflection.
Okay, no, that's interesting. And what about other arts then? Obviously we've done Krav Maga, a little bit of Krav Maga together. But have you looked at other arts that you've other martial arts? Well, it doesn't matter if it's Chinese or Japanese. You know, have you looked at any other arts yourself?
Yeah. So for me, when I grew up, me and my friends were always really passionate about martial arts. All forms of martial arts. So we were just like martial arts, kind of like, you know, really passionate big fans. And so, although Pek Mei is the only style that I've, you know, trained in all these years, I have taken a few classes and other things. So some of the things that because my friends have done different styles, and often when we meet up, we're practicing with one another, we're exploring other styles, and we're just trying things out. So that was always a great. We're all passionate about it, and we all just love to share and try things out. So, you know, I've taken very few classes in Tai Chi. I also did a few classes of Capoeira as well. And so, yeah, it was a great experience because my friends did those styles, and I thought, wow, okay, you know, let's go and have a bit of experience. But then at the same time, in addition to my martial arts, is that what I found is that when you learn other things, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be martial arts. It will actually end up complementing the martial arts. So one of the things that I did, which was quite interesting, was like I took up dancing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I thought, wow, you know. And then suddenly your footwork becomes better. So I did dancing, and then also I did art as well. I did some painting, and then so then it gets different parts of, you know, maybe parts that we don't normally use, mental and also physical, and then it has an expression in everything that you're pressing. So I don't know, to my martial arts changing that. I also did some yoga as well. And then also did some workshops, which is you know, working on myself, you know, in some inner work, you know, and so all of those contributed to, you know, my understanding, and actually added to my interest and passion.
Okay, guys, that's pretty interesting. And you know, how do you keep up with what's going on in the world, in the martial art world? You know, or do you look at YouTube clips that I send you? You probably send me. So how do you keep up with what's going out there in the world?
Yeah. We're very lucky to live in, you know, with such abundance of like sources like YouTube and so on, where we can actually find out so much about different styles of martial arts from all over the world. You know, even if we go back, you know, before the days of YouTube, you would physically have to go to a school. You'd have to find one as well, go to it, and then maybe they have an open day. You know, maybe they won't. And so now it's a lot easier to find out about different styles. Yeah, and I think that's been really good for people in general. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Just another thing about Pak Mei. I know you did a small introduction at the beginning of the video. When you do you think as well? Do you feel as though it's still a very relatively unknown style? I mean, I feel as though it's still very unknown. Is that because do you feel as though it's you know, kept within the small circles? If I just give you an example, you know, the Yip Man films, you know, Yip Man 1, 2, 3, now eventually coming to 4, right? You know, that just blew out. People knew about Wing Chun via Bruce Lee, you know, and also various other teachers that taught around. I mean, when I was a kid, the only two people that was known in the UK were people like Samuel Kwok and also Simon Lau. So I'm talking about the early 80s here. But those are the only two people, you know, in the fighter magazines that we used to read. But I still feel as though, even though with the digital age now that we're in the social, you know, we've got all this information, I still feel as though that Pak Mei is still, I don't know whether the correct word is to use it's closed up or it's not been shown fully to the world.
Yeah.
Do you feel? I don't, maybe I've got the wrong end of the stick, but do you feel as it's like that a little bit?
Yeah. So from my Sifu, when he was never kind of like really self-promoting or anything like that. He just wanted to, he really loved his style, and is very humble about it. And so even though we had new students and so on coming in, it wasn't about trying to open a school to cater for hundreds of students in one large hall or anything like that. So it wasn't kind of like for financial gain. It was just purely for the love of the dedication to his style. And so a lot of my seniors as well, who are instructors as well, they all have they weren't teaching martial arts as their main career. So they will have normal jobs, and then when they were free, they would have an evening or something whereby they teach. And it's the same here as well. My main profession is that I'm in education, and so I just weekends and stuff, and then I help run the school.
Okay, and maybe we've got to mention this as well. Pak Mei, sorry, Pak Mei's. It's an art that's associated with the Haggayan or clan type of people as well. I know we've had this conversation before about being Hagga, but I know that you're not. I know I met your Sifu probably about a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I asked him the question. He said he's Haggayan, but he doesn't speak it. He knows how to listen to it again. I don't know if you can talk about that as well. But I'm, just saying the I'm Haggayan, but I never learned Hagga style. I obviously just learned Wing Chun as a kid. I probably started at roughly the same age as you as well. In my early 20s. But just about that association with the Hagga, maybe explain that.
Yeah. So from the stories that I've heard, China's made up of many ethnic groups.
Yeah.
And they were all very almost clan-like. So they all stick together. Brothers. It's a very strong kind of connection and bond between the people. And so from stories that I've heard being told, is that there were at points that even certain styles were only to be taught to people of the Hakka clan, kind of thing. And so it was that protective, and so there is a certain degree of keeping it in the family almost kind of thing. And then there were I've even heard stories that if you weren't a Haggayan, the master wouldn't even teach you beyond just maybe the foundation.
So you could be Guangdongyan or if you're not part of the Hakka clan, they wouldn't even teach you. And again, would that be? Because the only way, when I think about this, the only way you would know if somebody's Haggayan is if they started speaking it. So again, would that be? Would you say it's even down to the details of that? If you can't even speak it, you're not even well known.
Yeah, I didn't have any first-hand experience, so I've only heard these from stories. Yeah. But then even just I think it was something like the Pek Mei stick form. That if you want Haggayan, our ancestor wouldn't actually teach you.
This is really interesting because obviously myself, my family, my family size, and I'm talking about my older brothers and all that, they actually did Pak Mei in Hong Kong, they find it strange that, or people find it strange that I'm Haggayan and they actually did Wing Chun, But I think it's more to do with the art found me rather than me going out and looking for it, as you well know. But it's just interesting from that perspective. It's a Hakka style, because I've been asked this question many times. How come you never did Pek Mei, or how come you didn't do praying mantis? Because the Hakka styles that you should, you're Haggayan, so you should be doing those kind of styles. But I've never really looked at it that way. But it's the same either way around. How come Dad taught you and you're not Hakka, and you're not Hakka? The fact that you're Chinese.
Yeah. So it became probably more relaxed when the martial arts in Hong Kong, because most of the people in Hong Kong were from to speak Cantonese and so on. But if we look back at the demographics and then the way it was handed down, they were more like custodians of an art form, and so there is a tradition And then so then there was like almost like an impulse to keep the tradition as well. But so somewhere along the line it became more relaxed, which is very fortunate. Because I learned it. I've even heard stories of people who reached a high level in Pak Mei, and this is way back in the day. And then they hit the ceiling whereby they weren't able to work. So I'm not sure exactly the whole story, but then that you can only reach this level and no further. And then it's almost like that, that they weren't going to be taught any more than that.
Okay, so
this is way back.
It's
not something I've heard recently.
Okay. And just going on from the video, obviously I don't know how long we've been knowing each other now. Is it 5 years?
Yes, probably.
Probably about 5 years. And obviously we met during a British-born Chinese martial arts meetup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's when we first met each other. And I think one of the things that I was impressed with, right, is your attention to detail, and also your authenticity as well, and also maintaining the art, to the standard that you've got to now. Obviously watching you do your form, watching you do your demonstrations on various people. It's like with all martial art styles as well. I always look at the you do a very, very nice form, but what's the practicality of it? And that's very, very important to me. And I think as we've got to know each other over the last 5 years, and we've got to know each other better, I know I'll probably, I don't know if this is the right word to use, but probably our egos, right? We're probably thinking, well, you do Pek Mei and I do Wing Chun, so we'll keep it like that. But I think by having that meeting with the BBC martial arts people, that it was a good thing, but it also brought out a lot. I say a newer generation of British-born Chinese that still love doing martial arts, and also were really unsure where to start with it all. Because I think we showcased about 5 different styles in the afternoon that we did it, and I felt as though, I remember doing the opening speech. I felt as though the reason why martial arts in the Chinese community or around the Chinese region was sort of like frowned upon is because it had associated with triads, protection rackets, and just generally people that were of unsavoury characters and all. And I think that when we did that meeting, like yourself, you're an educator, you work at university, I work in a bank. That actually we're just ordinary people, but we still like doing Chinese martial arts as a whole. And I think the other thing I want to say is that that what's really brought us together, right, is that when I started doing Krav Maga, which is obviously, people don't know, it's an Israeli type of military martial arts. So it's totally non-Chinese, and the reason why I started doing that is because it was totally non-Chinese, and I wanted to really test my coming out. I wouldn't say test, yes, come out of my comfort zone and see what I could do Wing Chun wise as well. And I've obviously become an instructor in this in Krav Maga as well. But I think what's brought us together, right, is that me doing this non-martial arts and saying to me, actually, I do Krav Maga and we can exchange styles, and that's primarily the reason why I started that, because I didn't want it to be associated with anything that was from the Far East. Even if it's Japanese as well or Korean, I didn't want to be associated that way. And I think I'm fair. I don't know if you can confirm this, Chee, but it's fair to say that that's probably what's brought us a lot closer together, isn't it? Just looking at that, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's like because we're in the West, we're exposed to many different forms of fighting, and so our awareness is very different. And we're in an age whereby we can see so many different forms of fighting from different countries, and it allows us to explore, what it is about, and then ultimately it's about mastering your body, and then building up on that.
I know this is not on the question list as well, but obviously when I met you as well, you also told me that you were a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that's a big part of your life as well, being a vegan. I don't know if you can share what. I know there's health issues, not health issues, but being healthy.
Yeah.
I know you're not such a big drinker. I know you like a whiskey and things like that, but you're not such a big drinker. But just maybe elaborate on that. I know you've tried to talk to me about being vegan, how you recruit, but maybe you can share with the people.
Yeah. So initially, I did it as an experiment.
Yeah.
I kind of like I was hitting. Coming up to my 40s at the time, and so what happens is that your body starts to change, right?
Yeah.
Internal dynamics start to change. The functioning, the tolerances to certain things start to change as well, and so then I started kind of like experimenting with kind of like a different side. So as well as working on myself physically, emotionally, and also you could say maybe inner work. I was also looking at maybe a different aspect as well, which is diet. So the thing is that there are many different parts that can complement your life. And so I thought, right, okay, let's look at the diet side now. And then through just my own experiment, the intensity of the level that I was training at the time, I just felt, okay, how can I push it past the next barrier? And I just even, I just felt it physically that if I had drank even just half a pint 2 nights before, my training 2 days later will be impacted.
As in, when you say drinking, as in alcohol drinking?
Yeah. Half a pint of beer.
Yeah.
Just 2 days before would impact my training 2 days later.
Okay.
Whereby I would feel that my stamina, endurance, and recovery would be hampered. And then so just naturally it started falling weight, right? My alcohol consumption, because I became more sensitive to what was happening within my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time I thought, right, okay, let's experiment with the food now as well. And then and I found out that just by eating just pure vegetables a day or two before training, I would actually have a really high experience of vitality.
Yeah.
As I was training, to train for longer. I was actually in my late 30s, I could train for longer and harder compared to my 20s.
Yeah.
And that was surprising for me, just by adjusting diet. And so then by naturally becoming more sensitive to my body, I thought, this is a state I'd love to be in. And then I just
I remember some of the other conversations that you also talked about the healing as well. You heal a lot quicker when you've been injured. I mean, we all do martial arts, we all get injured at some point, but you also said that by changing your diet, you also healed a lot quicker as well from injuries.
Yeah. So even just from a high intensity training, it would take you feel sore for about a few days. I just found out just by being on a plant-based diet that I recovered quicker. Yeah, and that I thought I was very strange. For me at the time, just something that I never experienced physically, that I would be, feeling okay just about a day later. I'm like, wow, okay, this is a strange sensation.
And how long have you been a vegan?
Yeah, so it's been 6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was a lot longer now, but 6 years. Well, and is that your brother, you, and your younger brother as well?
So me and my second brother,
yeah,
we went vegan at the same time.
Okay.
Because at the time we were training to a very high level of intensity.
Yeah.
So that was the next stage to get past that kind of like plateau energetic wise.
Yeah. And again, I know again talking to your brother and a couple of other people that do Pek Mei as well that are also vegans, they've also reported the same thing. Exactly what you're saying about the training levels and also the recovery as well if you get injured. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that with us. So I'd just like to add that obviously I met Chee Kong about 5 years ago, and I've been wanting to do a sort of like an interview like this on Pek Mei, simply because I felt as though Pek Mei wasn't really really a style that nobody talks about. I've seen YouTube clips of people doing that way, and I've obviously shared them with you, and you've come back to me and said, yeah, it's okay. Not quite right, but it's okay. And I felt as though if we look at you know, obviously the current state of where Pak Mei is in the UK and primarily in London and all that, obviously met your peers as well, and your brother as well. I just felt that this would be a really good thing an interview to talk about, really, and probably the first one to do as well.
It's been a pleasure talking about it.
No, thanks for sharing that with us as well. You know, really great insight. And I hope you guys out there as well will enjoy this as well. So, well, thank you.
Right, thank you.
See how long that went on for.